Um, Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. I request you to mute your audios, all your devices, and if you wish, please disable the video as well. It will enable you to see and participate in a better way, and also you will have save bandwidth. Thank you very much. To start with, I will introduce you Adil. Some people may know Adil, some may not. So I will start by introducing him to this group, uh, especially if you don't know who Adil is. Adil is 40 years old. He was born in Hyderabad, and he was brought up in Sundargarh in Odisha. His family has a wife and his parents, and he is the last among the four siblings. He is postgraduate in management, and he has worked in life insurance, software sales, and startups as well in the past. He has last year completed the BNHS basic course in ornithology. That's how we know him from that course. He has traveled to many countries, middle in the Middle East and Southeast Asian countries for work. Um, he is passionate about wildlife, photography, bird watching, bird behavior, and study bird sensors. He's also an aquarist. He likes table tennis, and he also loves board games. He tries to travel as often as he can in the quest of quenching his thirst on his various hobbies. And today's session, he is going to present to us. I am stopping my share, and Adil will present his screen. And his session would be interactive. He will give you directions as to how the session will go ahead. Um, and please follow his instructions during the course. In the meanwhile, I request all of you to mute your devices, stop your videos. I will also stop my video as soon as I finish this address. And have a nice time. We will have this session around 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes at the max. We try to close it as fast as possible. I also not will not take it too fast so that you should be able to understand as well. Um, Adil, over to you.
Yeah.
क्लाउड पे ढका हुआ है नहीं सॉरी ये नहीं
Adil, you are not audible.
Yeah, just a minute. I'm
Okay.
not getting the screen share option here. There. Am I audible?
Yes, Adil, you are audible.
Yeah.
Let me know if you are not able to share the screen. I will give you the access.
No, it's fine now.
Yes.
I'm just about to share the screen. Just taking on the settings. So hope my screen is visible to everyone now.
Yes, your screen is visible. There is one person called AJ. If you could please disable your video, that will be helpful. Thank you. It will distract less. Go ahead, Adil.
So good morning to one and all. Thank you, Francis, for a lovely introduction. With this, I would like to start the session on the word behavior and word nesting habits. So we'll start with the first slide. I would like to make this session interactive. So it's more of there will be some questions I will be putting across. I'm not sure how we would be able to take the responses. So maybe Francis will monitor the chat because the responses would be on the chat. And I'll also try to monitor the chat. So my first question is basically, what do you find most, these are rhetorical questions, so I'll also be giving some of my inputs right away. So what's the most fascinating thing that you find in a bird? This slide is basically a starting teaser slide, and then we'll move on to the topic after this slide.
You may use the chat option and type your answer. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the chat.
I will read out, Adil, if you're not able to read out, I say free and
Yeah, it will be
chirping,
better because the chat
free and
it
chirping,
blocks my.
calls, plumage, their excitement in the morning, getting ready for school picnic, beautiful colors, ability to fly, flight, colors, fly and variety. Birds are able to get going earlier than I am. Bones, that is what the answers are coming for that question. Sensitive,
Okay, thank you. Beautiful responses. So likewise, they are beautiful. They are colorful. So what we see here is the Oriental dwarf kingfisher, now known as black-backed dwarf kingfisher. It comes in lovely colors, and this is the season people flock to the coastal areas in this part of India to watch this beautiful bird in the breeding season. Then you all must have heard of the Indian pitta, which is called Navrang in Hindi. It exhibits 9 colors, so that's how it gets its Hindi name. Then I have improved my vocabulary because of birding. I learned that there is not just brown, but there is rufous, buff, cinnamon, chestnut, tawny, rusty, ruddy, ferruginous, and whatnot. So these are all colors describing a bird for the color brown. So it's quite intriguing and quite amazing how birds also improve one's vocabulary. Then I would like to share this audio. So mornings in this season, you wake up with the calls of the koel, and in this image is Oriental magpie. Also, the other call in the audio was of the magpie robin. Again, another chirpy, beautiful songster, which is mostly audible in the early hours of the day. And next, they are cute and cuddly, so nothing to tell you much. Their ability to fly. Man has always been fascinated by this. And in fact, Leonardo da Vinci, in his notes, has mentioned bats, kites, and birds as a source of inspiration for his famous flying machine, the design that he had. So they are the inspiration today. We are able to take flight. Then they are hardworking. I have used this image of a great Indian hornbill. Hornbills, also I will be talking about them a little in the coming slide. They are one of the most hardworking species. You know, the female locks herself while the incubation is on. The check and balance about all these insects and rodents that we may like or hate, because if there is no balance, I will give you an example. Most of you must have been aware in previous sessions also it was discussed. In Mao China in the 50s, China was going through this industrial revolution, and they wanted a agricultural boom. So they found that the sparrows were consuming too much grain as per their understanding, and they declared the sparrow was a pest, and about 2 million sparrows were killed, unfortunately. Almost that whole region was wiped out of sparrows. And the impact they realized their mistake, their folly. In next 3 years, about 45 million, if my numbers are not wrong, 45 million humans were dead due to famine and other reasons. So the resultant was they had to import sparrows back from Russia and reintroduce them in China. So birds have a great role to play in our life, and they could help manage or balance the ecosystem. Then they are amazing divers and swimmers. This is the image of an oriental darter. In parts of Northeast India, locals, they use them to catch fish from streams, similar to how cormorants are used in the Southeast Asian countries to catch fish. Then they are globetrotters. You must have all heard about bird migrations during winter seasons. And this is the image of a bar-tailed godwit pair. So the bar-tailed godwit, they travel they have been recorded to travel non-stop for 11,000 kilometers, covering that distance in 8 days. This species, they migrate from in the flyway, East Asian Australasian flyway. So East Asian, when I say, I'm talking about the top northmost part of Russia, which is closest to Alaska, in that portion. From that portion, they fly till Australia. So some of them record at least between 10 to 11,000. And this is the longest journey for a land bird. In a lifetime, they would have covered 460,000 kilometers. There's another example of the Arctic tern. They have a record of having covering between, they migrate again from the Arctic Circle to the Antarctic Circle. So they cover 70,900 kilometers on an average. So in the lifespan, they would have, they live 30 years. So in a lifespan, they would have covered 2.4 million kilometers. So that's about like 3 round trips from the moon. So then there is the bar-headed goose. They migrate and come from Mongolia side to India during the winters, and they have to cross the Himalayas. So on an average, they would be flying above 8,000 meters, even higher than the Mount Everest. It has been recorded. So these are the amazing facts on them. Then speed and vision. This is the image of a peregrine falcon. Its dive speeds when it's about to slap a prey, it would reach a dive speed of 390 kilometers per hour. The golden eagle, it is known to have a sight of about 2 miles, so it can air or rabbit miles from where it's perches. So moving on. But the most fascinating thing that I find is that's what my topic is, the building of nests. And the thing is, they are able to do this just with the help of their beaks and feet. This is a Baya male building the first stage of the nest. Okay, there's a question here. When and why do birds build nests? So I'll answer the when and the why as well. So it's a breeding season. That's when the nests are required. And they require it to lay eggs, to protect the eggs, to attract a male. Like if the nest is not a property, the mate will, the female will not choose the mate, and the male may have to go one season without having a brood. Then nests are also used to incubate. I'll be citing an example of a bird who do not sit on the eggs, but their nest act as incubators. Then also it is the home for the young. So a safe place, a house, a home. Now, what we see across here are the seasons typical of we see in India: summer, winter, summer, monsoon, and winter. However, IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, they put it as pre-monsoon, which actually is summer, then monsoon, then post-monsoon, which ends in November, and then winter, which ends in February. Yes. What I have here is actually, I want to put across is the breeding season. So, although this is not my topic, I'm just going to give you a few set of examples of birds that breed in these seasons. And I would like to draw, which I found a thing here that a family of birds do not actually nest in a particular season. It is quite random. But with nest building, I will bring your attention to the fact that, okay, a family of birds, they have similar nests. So when we look at the current season, summer, common birds like red-vented bulbul, the house crow, and shikra, all are actively nest building right now. And again, when I say summer, it does not mean that, okay, then there will be, the chicks, youngs would have fledged by the end of summer, which is ending in May. It might go until June. So it's quite a range, but okay, we can still place them in summer. And the next season is monsoon. The Baya weavers basically announce the arrival of monsoon. So you will find them chirping, being chirpy, and the males would be actively building their first stages of the nest. Then the white-throated kingfisher, I can hear it every day nowadays. It's already starting to find its mate. Then the Indian pitta, they also, Then in winter, again, quite range of different range of birds. So spotted owlet nests in winter. Then an eagle, Bonnelly's eagle, they nest in winter. Then the white-naped woodpecker, they nest in winter. I had to put specific names because if I say woodpecker's nest in winter, it would be very long. So that's why I had to be very specific. And there are birds that nest throughout the year. So sparrows will have multiple fletches during the whole year. Gray francolin, it's a ground bird. They would have multiple fletches throughout the year. Black-winged kite does not have any particular season throughout the year. Moving on. So nest builders and dwellers. Is there a pattern? Let's look at some of them. And here it will be a participatory thing. So Francis, I will need your help. So we will look at a nest and then let's see. Initially, we'll start with some common birds. So I think you must be able to identify it if you have seen them nesting in your neighborhood. Maybe on your, they would nest on your car or in your frontal dicky of the scooter or in your helmet. This is the first one. Any idea?
Bulbul.
Yes,
I'm reading
this
out
is
from the
red
chat.
vented. Yeah, so correct, absolutely. This is a red-vented bulbul nest. So it's a nest of, it's a cup nest of twigs and fiber. They generally place it in a bush, but if they are very innovative as well, so they can place it here and there. Cobweb is a very common what do you call part of the nest building. They use cobwebs to bind their nest. Okay, the next one. Oops, it has. You have the answer already. So this is a black-naped monarch nest. My transitioning is happening a little slow. So this is again a deep cup nest. It is made of, I already put the answer, I'm sorry. So made of fine grass, moss, draped with, egg casings of spiders and lichen. So, and it is very well camouflaged. I know it is green in color and it is placed between dense branches, branches where there are a lot of leaves. In forks. What about this? This is a, I will give you a hint. This is a nest. Basically, it's a like a laid in a depression in the ground. It's a bare, minimalistic nest, and many ground and most of the ground birds, waiters, they lay their eggs in a similar fashion, lining it with maybe a little bit of twigs and pebbles.
Answer is
Any
red
idea? They rely mostly on camouflage. Sorry, yeah.
Many people are giving
yes,
lapwing
red
as
wattle
answer.
lapwing. Yes, red wattle lapwing. So look at the color of the eggs. It almost merges with the ground. So they rely on camouflage. And everyone in India must be hearing the lapwing in the night time, during the day. They're very highly alert birds and very strong defense. So about 100 meters away from the nest, they will start making their alert calls and trying to scare away the intruder. In fact, once I was jogging in the nearby field, and I almost stepped on these eggs because they were not visible. Thankfully, I could just leap over. So it was a patch of a farming land which had been plowed on, and they had just laid their eggs there. This is a very common egg nest. The next one. Many species build nests of twigs. This one is of iron wire, rags, rubbish. They build it in tall trees. You can see this is a eucalyptus tree. In case you want me to zoom the image, I can zoom images where the nests are not visible. And any
No,
idea?
crow is somebody saying crow. Sanjeev Naik is saying crow. Let me wait for some more answers. Somebody is saying kite. Sharmila is saying
Crow
kite.
nest, but yes, crows have a nest of twigs. Yes, it's a black kite's nest. Correct. Okay, we are moving on to interesting section of nest now. So this is a horizontal tunnel dug by the side of a nala or bank, earth cutting, and it can be as deep as between 1 to 2 meters.
Somebody saying beef. Somebody saying bee. Somebody saying KF. Kingfisher.
Yes,
ODKF.
correct. So this is a kingfisher nest. I'm not sure which kingfisher has built this nest, but the image here is of a white-throated kingfisher. So all kingfishers have similar kind of horizontal tunnels, and at the end of the tunnel there would be a slight depression where they would have their eggs laid. The only two exceptions that I found in India were the ruddy kingfisher, which might build in a tree hole, and the collared kingfisher, which might build in a tree hole or in a carton nest or a mud nest of tree ants, or maybe even a termite mound. Moving on to the next. Now again, this is a very similar kind of a nest to the kingfisher. You can see, I will zoom in.
Answers are coming. Preeti is saying swift.
Close, I would say, but not really.
Swiftlets. Sharmila is saying swiftlets.
Basically, this also is, this is a community example of a colony nesting, and here this has been taken. I will give you a hint. People were there with me. This was in, yes, this is a great-throated martin colony, and again their nests are as deep as 150 centimeters, about 1.5 meters. So they also dig burrow. I mean, they excavate such nests, and this is from the Chambal Valley. Again, at the end of the other end of the nest, they would other end of the hollow, they would be lining it with roots and feathers to have a soft kind of a nest for their young. Now another similar nest. What about this one? Again, this is an example of communal nesting, although they might breed singly also. Similar habitat, they build in tunnels and ravines, earth cutting by the banks. No?
Answers are
Someone had
have not
earlier
come
said,
yet. No answers yet.
okay, someone earlier had mentioned bee eaters. So this is a bee eater nest. So they nest communally or singly as well. So I just wanted to put them together because 3 different family of birds have similar kind of nesting. Now this is another interesting nest. I am sure many of you would have seen this. If you would have seen maybe under the bridges or by a riverfront.
I will read the answers. Swifts.
No. Close again, I would say, because have similar nests. But the nests have one additional ingredient, which I will mention in the coming slide.
Swallow. Couple
Yes,
of answers.
this is
Shakuntala is saying swallow.
Yeah. Correct. This is
Many
a streak-throated swallow. Streak-throated swallow nesting, and they make pot-type nests, like a disorderly collection of like a honeycomb, basically. And you can see here about at least 30-40 nests are there. So it's a beautiful work. You will find it under bridges, over canals, gateway arches, close to the town. This one is from near Nasik and by the river bank. So another one near Pune, there is a colony which nests in near close to Morachi Chincholi. That area, that section, there is a temple there. Place is known by potholes. So you can visit without disturbing them. Moving on to the next one. Now this nest is very interesting because it has a story. I have a story to tell. This is from my house. Just this is on a. So what you see is this is the ceiling, and this is the section underneath the ceiling. So it is a bracket kind of a nest. So they have used mud pellets. So obviously they would be breeding when it is wet and moist because they will be able to use mud balls to make this nest. It's
One
a
answer
shallow
from
cup kind of a nest.
Little Swift is one of the answers. Figure is saying Swift. Sanjeev is saying Little Swift.
So Sanjeev is correct. This is a Little Swift nest, but this is been occupied by Little Swift after having modified it. So originally the builder of the nest is Dusky Crag Martin. So I will show you the next slide as well. So the Little Swift is the current owner. They have lined it with feathers, and now what you see is the original nest made by the Martins. Once you have to go back.
Adil, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Just an announcement for everyone. As you can see on the top of your screen, you will see time remaining notification. So it is saying 3 minutes 35 seconds now. When there is 1 minute remaining, we will stop this session. I will close the meeting. You will all leave the meeting and I will open it again. You can join again. This is because we are using a free account and we need to rejoin. We only have 40 minutes per session. I hope you don't mind it and we rejoin after that. I'll make an announcement when we stop. Thank you, Adil. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll rush through also because I'm not sure how many of you I can hold on for a longer duration. So we will try to close it in by the end of the next session. So this is Martin Nest, original owner, and been modified by the Little Swift to suit their needs. So this is the modified nest. Moving ahead. Now what you see is the original nest of a this is a Little Swift colony. So this is how they actually. So they make hemispherical bags. It is made up of vegetable matter, feathers. It's all agglutinated with saliva. So saliva is a main binding factor here, and they built it. It's quite overlapping nest, and this is again an overhanging rock face. This is from Diveg Ghat area, and so again one of very interesting things. So these
Adil,
birds, although they know, yeah.
I would like to interrupt. We can stop here. Before that, I have two questions. You can answer when we come back. Okay. Number one,
Okay.
nests are built by males. That is one of the questions. Are nests built by male? Second question is, can we make favorable conditions to attract martin and swift kind of birds for nesting in our flats?
Thank you. I will answer this at the after we join.
Sure. Thank you. We'll close the call.
Yeah.
Question I received was whether the male and female both play a role in nest building. Now, this is a question which is difficult to answer because it depends on bird species. Like with Paya weavers, it is the male which builds the first stage of the nest. You had seen that image earlier. Don't know if I should switch because it has a lot of content. Okay, I'll show. So here, this is a male who is building this stage of the nest, and a little later, once some more of the nest would have been completed, the female would come and check the nest, and if she approves of the nest, she will continue helping the male finish the nest. So this is an example. Now, in the case of the martins and the swifts, I think both male and female play a role. In case of an osprey, again, it is the male who starts building the nest. And recently, I had seen a video where the female selected the nest, but it was her first breeding season, so she was not really clear about what to do. So she went and perched on a nearby perch and then observed the male build the nest. And almost when it was nearing its finish, she understood what her role was, and she also helped with procuring the material for building. So it is a very relative question, so the answer is also quite tricky. What was the other question, Francis?
Another question was, can we build favorable conditions in our flats for swifts and other birds, martins, to come and nest?
They are, they are very urban birds, so they will like to uh, have nests around human habitation. What they require is a corniche or a word for it. Basically, somewhere they have a open area and overhanging. So the basically martins you will find them to take to this condition very quickly, and they are very in at least in Pune they are pretty much very common. Little Swift, quite fortunate. I don't see them much in around the city, but yes, near the railway stations, somehow they prefer railway stations or near near to the cities, like on the outskirts. But very easy to, I mean, don't know what we can do. Only thing is they should have source to build a nest, so they need mud in the rainy season, and otherwise other materials and all this. Yes, they need a lot of food supply, which is there, so that's not the challenge. So hope my answer is clear enough.
Yes, clear. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Moving on to the next species. Yeah. Now we are looking at uh, the hint is these birds are very beautiful. For people who are regular birders, if I put forward another sentence, you'll have guessed it what which bird that is. I will not, but I'll in the meantime describe the.
No answers yet.
Okay, no problem.
Navrang. Somebody said Navrang.
Just a second. I will.
Navrang is basically Indian pitta. It doesn't look like pitta. Jigar is saying wobblers.
Okay,
Those are the answers.
not close. I'll describe the nest. Basically, they use clefts in trees. The fine nest on the inside. It's visible here. Let me zoom in. There's a nest of moss. There would be hair, animal hair, and feathers, and it would be a cup-shaped nest. This is a ultramarine flycatcher's nest. So basically, you might be surprised. You must be thinking, okay, flycatchers may have cup-shaped nests like we saw for black-named monarch, but those are monarchidae. Monarchidae, there we have two monarchidae in India, which is the black-named monarch, the Indian paradise flycatcher. So they have those kind of nests which I showed earlier. Most of the colorful blue flycatchers, they nest in tree clefts or hollows, right here. And one different one species which stands out is the verdita flycatcher, which is a blue copper sulfate colored bird. Again, see colors copper sulfate blue. So they have a thick cup nest of moss, and but they make it under eaves in buildings. So again, this is eaves again is a place where martins or swifts would nest, or in a hollow in a wall embankment. So they prefer to differ. So generally, our blue flycatchers would nest in similar fashion, although the other brown flycatchers like Asian brown flycatcher or brown-breasted flycatcher, they would have a cup-shaped nest placed in twigs. Now, this is from my bathroom. This nest is 7 years old, and it has occupants it still has occupants every time they lay eggs. So, any guesses?
Scaly-breasted Munia, sparrow,
Yes,
and this
both are correct because this was built by the scaly-breasted Munia. It's a dome-shaped nest. But after the first season, the sparrow smartly took over, and every year they have been having multiple fletches. About 30th of April, they had the last uh, successful fledgling. Now, this is very clear here. This is a Himalayan woodpecker. So, woodpeckers generally they prefer dead parts of tree trunks. In this case, the pointy, beautiful poles and good enough for this. They are primary nest builders. Basically, I would talk to you about primary nest builders in secondary dwellers coming. I think without exception, build a nest on their own. Yeah, follow that they would make it. Now, this is a purse-shaped nest, like an oblong purse. So, any guesses? This again is a structure of it's a woven nest of grasses and roots, roots, vegetable down. Basically, when I say vegetable down, thistle, like all those seeds which get dispersed by wind, those kind of down.
Sanjeev is saying tailor-bird, Aarti is saying sunbird, Siddhi is saying wobbler, Sharda is saying weaver. We have got 4 answers. Okay.
All are very similar nests, yes, but look at this. That's why I described it as an oblong purse. This is the nest of a prinia. This one is a yellow-bellied prinia. They make such kind of nests. But prinia, on the other hand, they make nests depending on which section of which part of the country they are in. They might also make a nest like a tailor bird, which would be a stitched nest. So they are very artistic. They can weave, they can stitch. What else we want? Next slide. Now, someone would have given the answer for this. The as I would like to see. See now this section here is like a portico. There's an overhang here, and this is the entrance. So there's a roof, and this is a pendulous nest made up of rubbish, cobwebs.
The unanimous answer sunbird.
Yes, and it's a very tiny nest. So this is again from my society garden, just 2 seasons back. This is a purple rump sunbird nest. All sunbirds they build the nest. They use rubbish to maybe camouflage the nest, and I've seen during the monsoon, last monsoon, they was flooded because of mismanagement. Along the banks, there were acacia trees which were completely filled with plastic, and in that, the sunbird found the perfect camouflage to make it. Now this again is a beautiful. It's like a hammock. This is your view. A hammock type nest hanging from a branch or a tree. Again, they use cobweb is one of the most important, I would say, finding materials used by birds. Then there's bast fiber basically from phloems of uh, branches or twigs.
Before I give you the answers which are coming in, one question for the previous sunbird nest.
Yeah.
Do sunbird use the same nest every year?
Not possible as well because the nest would have dried and dropped by that time. Similar to how Baya weavers would not use their nest. It would have become very brittle.
Okay, thank you. Answers for the next picture is Aarti is saying wobbler, someone is saying white eye.
This is a bigger bird, a yellow colored bird. Generalistic beak, beautiful song. Black wing.
Oriole,
Yes, this is a Eurasian golden oriole nest. They are beautiful nest builders, birds, to sounds. Sorry. Okay, I'll speed up this because we have many more
No, no,
birds
that
to
was
look at.
okay. Somebody,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just looking at the time as well. So that's it. Okay, this is a clear-cut answer here. So this is a stork's nest, a white stork. They don't nest in India, but in Central Europe and West Asia. It's a huge, thick platform. They, in fact, storks they build it on chimneys or top of buildings over there, or tall trees as well. So this may be not be a work of the stock from one season. They may be using the nest seasons after season. In fact, it's a very massive nest. In fact, bald eagles or most raptors, if they are reusing the nest, it would be at like a tall tower of twigs. At the center of the nest, there would be a slight depression where the eggs would be. Okay, this I'm sure most of you will guess it. The golden brown colored egg. This bird will get active in the monsoons. This is laid on a floating leaf.
Unanimous answer, Jacana.
Yes, the pheasant-tailed jacana. It's partially uh, submerged in the water, and there is packed. It's packed with the weeds and stem, which is easily available there. They have jacanas and many birds like food birds that the water hens, swamp hens. They would have similar kind of nest. Not very similar, but the habitat would be quite similar. Now, this also, I'm sure everyone who is familiar with woodpeckers would know this. This is a rufous woodpecker nest made up of carton nest. Basically, a carton nest is a nest made of carton is a material of mix of feces and wood shavings. This is a nest made by the Crematogaster ants. They are arboreal ants, tree living, and the woodpecker chooses to live with them amicably. Probably the ants help the woodpecker be clear of any ticks, etc., while the woodpecker provides protection from any kind of predator. Now, although
Adil,
my topic, yeah,
Adil, just a question on while on woodpecker. Question was earlier. Those who build the hollow in the wood in the tree, woodpeckers, do they reuse the nest again?
they may reuse the nest or it might get occupied by any other secondary dweller, and they may reuse the same trunk of the tree. They might build a little higher close by or a little lower. We have seen during one of our trips uh, on board, there was a trunk which was having holes which were forming an S shape. So there were continuously holes there. So I'm not sure whether it was for nesting or what. Mostly it was for nesting. So every season maybe a new nest was built in a new hole was made for nest. I'm not very sure on whether they reuse the same nest. Now, although my topic is meant to be India specific, but some exceptions which I wanted you to look at because they were very interesting nests. So I've put them also in my slides. I'm not sure if anyone can guess this one, although the bird is slightly visible here. So this is a sub-Saharan species, so it's found beyond, I mean, below the Sahara Desert and Madagascar as well, and parts of Arabia, southern western parts of Arabia. They build massive nests. That number of pigs here would 10,000, and sometimes although they build a nest, it might be taken over by an eagle owl or a bigger species. There's only one entrance in this. It's in a lateral entrance which leads to the central chamber. Uh, you might think, okay, this will be on the ground, but they prefer to build this nest on forks of trees close to the water bank. The hammercock. a
No
very,
answers. No answers on the chat on this
I give the answer. It's a hammercock. I look on the word. So it gets its name from its hammer-like head, big-looking head for a tiny bird. So moving on. Another unique funny feature is once the nest is ready, eggs have been laid, they might still continue to add material. Uh, in the meanwhile, although there's a disclaimer down below, I would like to say that I don't, neither I or nor any enthusiast who nature level would encourage photography of nests or disturbing birds to take pictures of them. So mostly all my images that which I have gathered, either which are mine or from the internet, are of nests without the owner around it. I try to consciously find such things, but sometimes I've tried to find something for the art piece of artist. But this only for education purposes. Intentions are wrong. What about this nest? So what they have done is they have found a gap between the bark and the trunk. They have again fur, hair, moss, dry grass, feathers. Anyone?
No answers. Owl. Somebody said owl. Tree
No, no, no.
keeper. Sanjeev is saying
This
tree
is
keeper.
yes, it's a tree creeper. This is a very narrow space, so owl cannot nest in such a thing. There, it's a tree creeper. Tree creeper is another very beautiful species, but cannot much. So as the name suggests, they creep in on trees, finding insects, and they are so well camouflaged. This image is from the side, but if you were to look at them from the back, from this section, you would may not even see it. You may notice something moving. That's all.
Request to
Uh,
everyone on the chat, please do not ask questions on the chat because they get lost. So please only interact with Adil on the question he's asking. And if there is a specific question related to that particular slide, you may ask immediately. Otherwise, a general question, please hold on. We will have a dedicated question and answer session. Thank you.
yeah, we
Adil,
can
go
keep
ahead.
it for the end. Thank you. Okay, now this is again a big bird which has made a nest. Basically, has used its surrounding material, the grass, reeds, and brush, make a nest on the ground. It's basically in the paddy fields or marshy area. I will give the answer for this.
I got a answer Saras. I got Jigar is saying
Ah,
egret.
Paris. So all those we have seen stalks, they build nests of twigs on tall things. So the cranes, in general, they prefer the ground. Look at the contrast. Now this answer is very clear. So this is an American flamingo colony. They have a little township here. So about there might be as many as 100 or 150 families living together. It's a mound of sun-baked mud, must be about 50 to 30 centimeters high, and at the center of it there would be a depression where they would lay their eggs. These birds are very, they keep delighting you in every which. You could see their breeding display, courtship dance, or how they are, or how they feed. Again, I took this American flamingo nest colony image because it was a very good image. I couldn't find something similar for our Indian birds, which is the greater flamingo or the lesser flamingo. Now, another from, uh, you must have all seen this video, so I'm sure you would know this. This nest is made up of mud and grass, other fibrous materials, and the inner section actually curves here. The inner section curves here, and there's a fold on the inside. So somewhere here on the inside, the actual nest and wood. One, it's an oven bird, and they're found in the Americas. Sometimes, I think cowbird would try to, act like a brood parasite and lay its eggs when the own birds are not around. And a lot of other birds try to, take over this nest because it's a very hardy, tough, and beautifully built nest. So the next one is one of my most favorite nests. You must have seen earlier somewhere. Look at the nest. So the bird, I'm not going to describe what this is. You have a excellent vocabulary, which I don't. Then you would be able to name the bird because of this structure at the center of it. The whole area is lined with everything. So, like you see caps, bottle caps, straws, else, wrappers. So there may be as many as 2,000 sticks, which are which form the bottom of this whole nest, and on this section as well. Any answers coming in?
No answers yet.
And they may continue to use this nest for 15 years as well, or someone else might take over for 30 years. So this is an Australian bird called the boa bird. This one in specific is the satin boa. The bird. This one. But this image is of a non-Indian species. I took this one for the photographic impact.
Somebody is saying toucan, Mithun is saying tukau, and Priri is saying hornbill.
Correct. This is a hornbill, southern yellow-billed hornbill, again from Africa. So like we are talking all hornbills. They make use of natural tree hollows, and the female incarcerates herself to lay the eggs. And the whole hollow is sealed except leaving a slit from where the male can put his beak on the inside, or the female can push out her beak from the inside, one from the outside and the other from the inside. So this slit will be for the next few weeks would be the only way interaction happens between the male and the female. So the female also sheds her flight feathers so that there is more space in the tree hollow where she has to gradually give space to the younglings. And the female will use the trowel, use her beak, the front section of her beak, the bill, as a trowel to seal this nest. So although the material may be provided by the male, so to a previous question, the female will do most of the nest, the sealing from the inside, using feces and mud. And Dr. Raju Kasambe of BNHS done a thesis on the Indian grey hornbill. From him, what we have learned is the male also passes the female bath occasionally during the day, in which the female would spray her feces and throw it out. Although the feces has multiple roles, but excess feces can be very acidic and moving on. This bird species again is from the non-native species, and I will go across also. It's a malleefowl. What is interesting is I mentioned to you earlier about incubation. So these birds don't incubate their eggs. They build this massive structure. So what you see on top is sand or mud, uh, which would be about a meter thick as well. And down below, there will be layers of decaying leaves. So they also require some kind of showers so that decay starts. So when the decomposition starts, it releases heat. So they rely on that heat, and the sand acts as an insulation material so that the eggs are laid basically over the decaying material just below the sand layer of sand. So the sand acts as an insulation material. The decomposing leaves act as the source of heat. Now the birds are very, I think it's their bill, the beak, where very sensitive and they can tell what the temperature of the system is. They would maintain the male. It is the male who is responsible for building the nest and it's very possessive. So uh, he will ensure that the temperature is maintained by adding or removing the sand. Also, small air vents are opened so that heat, excess air can be released. And it may be so that multiple clutches are laid in this multiple females, which I'm not sure. This another similar species, I mean another species with a similar kind of nesting is the brush turkey, which although will not have a nest of a sand, but of mostly of twigs and decaying material. There the male again takes the responsibility of taking care and would multiple females would lay eggs from maybe multiple sources also. The male may not be the parent of those uh, laid eggs, but would still take care very possessively, even ensuring that the female doesn't come around trying to mess with the nest. He would ensure how where to place the eggs. The whole section would be beautifully with each egg being separate from the other to ensure maximum incubation. Moving on to the next. Now this is the second last nest, and again from abroad, specifically Africa, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa. It's a sociable weaver. I don't know. I forgot to hide it. So there's a sociable weaver. It's a sociable weaver nest, and as many as 100 pairs might breed. So they make a nest in nest kind of a colony. I zoom in, you're able to see the multiple outlets for the species. It's a nest in nest, and they build massive structure on poles as well. And they rely on community living so that it also acts some kind of protection. As one of them may be a lookout or staying in group anywhere offers a lot of protection from the kind of predators that they might have. This is the last nest. This is a nest in a cave. Any answers?
Nothing has come in yet. Let us wait. You mentioned it is a nest in a cave.
Yes. These are many nests that you see, all these white ones. So it's like a deep cup. And if I mention the next word, I'm sure most of you will guess it. So I'm just
So I
waiting
have
for
some
answers.
answers. I'll read out. Martins, swifts, edible swifts. Somebody saying robin, swallows, swiftlets.
Yes. This is a basically there are two swiftlets in India which build similar nest, which is the Indian edible swiftlet, and this in this case this is the white nest swiftlet. I'll also mention why the Edward comes with birds, is associated with birds. This is from Andaman and Nicobar Island. So this white nest swiftlet are endemic to that section, and this nest is purely of saliva. There might be a little bit of feathers and grass, but it is mostly saliva. And it is a Chinese delicacy. They make soup out of it, nest soup. That's how the name comes. I didn't want to use the word, but they have special taste. And another feature of swiftlets or swift in general, as differentiating from the swallows or martins is they make use of saliva in different ways, so mixing them with various material like feather, grass, moss. Kind of in the case of the edible swiftlets or the whiteness swiftlets, they make a higher use of saliva. So during the breeding season, basically the salivary glands they enlarge so that they're able to generate more saliva for building their nest. So this is the end of the nest building and dweller section. Now, since we were discussing about nests, I also talked to you about the composition of nests. So I'm just putting across a small tabular form the recipe for what they take from nature is pigs, beef.
Adil, should we
Yeah.
start this session after coming back? We have 3 minutes, or you can finish the slide if you.
Okay, we can do that, or I can finish the slide also, unless they have questions on this. Just a small summary of what we saw on the earlier slides. I'll run through quickly.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So things taken from nature is twigs, moss, grass, leaves, hay, straw, rootlets. From other animals, insects, so as cobweb, saliva their own. Down and feathers, so it can be vegetable down as well. And bast fibers, again, like I mentioned, are plant vascular tissue, which is called phloem. And then from other animals like nests, like carton, mix of fecal matter and wood material. Then mud, shells, although I couldn't find an example, but my first slide, the introduction slide, had an image of an Arctic tern sitting on a nest which also had shells. Then trinkets, pebbles, rags, and rubbish. The make a nest. Okay, we can log off.
Yeah. Instruction is same for everyone. The session is not finished. We're just ending this particular part. We will come back. I will end the meeting. You rejoin again for the rest of the session.
Can I add to everyone? Just nearing the end of this the whole presentation, and a small video clip is also there. So just come back in a few.
Yeah. So we have maybe 10-15 minutes more. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
On the screen now. Where and how do water birds make their nest? If you can answer that.
Yeah, I covered a brief portion of that, wherein I showed you the redwater lapwing nest. So they also come under what do you call waders. So lapwings or other plovers or jacanas. Jacanas I showed to you. So jacanas, swamp hens, moor hens, they would make in reeds in the water itself, like floating reef kind of a structure would be used to lay their eggs. While plovers, sandpipers, or other species, other waders like snipes and all, they would lay on the ground close to the water body. They can maybe use a small depression on ground or just a scratch or the depression of a for laying their eggs. They would be all minimalistic nest kind of things. So maybe lined with some kind of little bit of grass or pebbles. So in general, a large section of these species in that way.
Yeah, you also
So
showed a floating nest of jacana as well.
Jacana, yes, exactly. And many species are winter migrants in India, so nesting was extra limited. So also I didn't delve deep into that. But in general, my next slide, I think, when I go to that classification nest, we'll be able to cover the kind of species. So my observations were in general were this, that a family of birds belonging to a family have a similar kind of nest. But if you look at breeding season, it is nothing is specific. They have their own means and methods. Well, again, summarizing what we saw earlier, there are cup-shaped nests of grass and other material like wood, the fiber, plant fiber. So birds like bulbuls. So this may cover most of the families I'm trying to cover here, which I couldn't show nests of 1300 plus species. this is a summary of what possible happening in terms of the interesting nests that birds have. The bulbul's fantail monarchidae, like that is black-name monarch, and in Indian paradise flycatchers and flycatchers in general shrikes, they make such nests. On bare ground, like I said, scrape in the ground or a depression in the ground or a hook mark, waders, all ground birds like quails, sand grouse, etc., partridges, francolins, they would have similar kind of nest. Where and how would be different, or what material would go would depend on which habitat they are living in. So mostly they would rely on camouflage. Their eggs would have patch marks. They would be earth colored or glossy like jacanas, because it would reflect of the light, like the water is basically reflecting off. So when a raptor or a predator would go from fly above, may not be able to see such kind of free food for them. Then platform of twigs and sticks, majority of the big species, larger species, they use kind of. So it covers a range, quite a range. So kites, eggs, eagles, falcons, all kind of raptors. Then corvids, that is crows and ravens, magpies, tree pies, egrets, herons, storks, ibis, cormorant, the kind of nests of different sizes, or where they build it, mostly on elevated platforms. Then horizontal tunnels are used by bee-eaters, kingfisher, cuckoos, or martins. Martins again is specific to gray-throated martins. Some of the martins, like we saw, they have nests of mud pellet. Then calf tree holes, woodpeckers, barbets, and occasionally parakeets. These are the primary victors. They make their own. Then natural hollows in trees, the Indian rollers or other rollers, hornbills, ducks. This is one species I didn't show earlier because we had seen hollows in trees, and I wanted to mention it here because I couldn't find any specific nest. So spot-billed nest or whistling, lesser whistling duck or other duck species. They would primarily they would lay eggs in a hollow in a tree. So once the egg hatches, the duckling would simply drop down and it would be independent. Then the trogons. Then mud inventions, swallows, martins, swifts, blackbirds, whistling thrush. Saliva is mostly swiftlets and swifts. Swifts would have a higher mix of feathers, moss, grass, bugs, etc. Then pendant nests that we saw were of sunbirds. Flower peckers have similar nests. Beaver birds, we saw that image. They have a neater nest. They are great at this. They also are living communally, so they don't need to be having nests which are very much camouflage. Then dome-shaped nests of munias, woven oblong purses of prinias, and also they might have a pendant, like your the most ashy prinia. Depending on which part of the region it is living in, it might make a oblong purse nest open, or it might make a pendant. Then nest in stitched leaves, tailor birds, and sorry, not a pendant nest. Prinias will make a stitched leaf besides the woven. Then carton nests are used by collared kingfisher and rufous woodpecker. So I've been using this word builder and dweller. So basically, when I say a builder, it's the primary, the bird which makes that nest primary. So woodpeckers, barbets, parakeets, they make their holes in the hollows. I mean, they make their holes by making a hollow in the tree. Kingfishers are hollows, or kingfisher beefeaters are hollows in earth banks. Then martins and swallows. You have seen a martin nest being occupied by a beaver birds nest can be occupied. I will mention it. Indian silverbill is one of the most common species. After the beaver birds have left or fledged, the breeding season of the Indian silverbill happens, or even after later. I think they breed most of the year. So they occupy uh, leftover. I mean, not leftover. Fledged nests of the buyer weavers. In fact, I have a nest which was earlier occupied by the Indian silverbill. it occupied the nest in my balcony. Then flycatchers. Secondary dwellers are mynas and starlings. They would take natural hollows, or if you make a nest box, they would come to it. I have one in my balcony. The house, common mynas have been using it for some time. Then the owls, sparrows, swiftlets, and swift. Not sorry, swiftlets, swift, and the Indian swift. These are secondary dwellers. Birds that occupy this nest of other birds by either carrying them away or taking over the ones which are secondary. Sorry, I forgot to say few. So before we wrap up, we are almost at the end of the session. I would like to leave you with an lasting impression of these two visuals of great craftsmen, which I have not shown earlier in any form, in detail at least. I have not discussed also, but this is something that you can explore later. Before that, any questions about primary and secondary dwellers? Assume that's a no.
Adil, there are people who wanting to ask question. Let us know when to ask, or you want to take all the questions now or after the video.
You can take it now. The video is the last part of my slide. There will be acknowledgement.
Okay, so guys, you can ask question on the chat or unmute your device and you can ask question. There is one question I am asking right now. Parakeets are primary or secondary? Primary builders or secondary
Parakeets,
dwellers?
they fall in both these sections. I mentioned them in primary because they also are capable of building their own tree holes for nesting. But they also would love to find tree hollows and make by tree hollows. Even a hollow in the gap in the wall, they would use it for nesting.
Okay, another question. Is there any intergenerational knowledge transfer that happens among birds in case of nest building, or is it instinctive?
It is instinctive is a better word. It is innate basically. So even there have been experiments done of birds which have been uh, hatched in captivity, not knowing their parent, but once they are reaching adulthood or they are young, they have that capability of building that nest. But the expertise of having built a beautiful nest, the way it has to be, will come after practice. So it might be not the first season or the second season, but might be by the third season, they would have the skill level of an adult.
Thank you.
So
Adil.
it is innate.
How long does it take to make nests usually?
Nest, see, if you look at any bird or the nest kind of nest it makes, the bigger the bird, it makes a bigger nest. So it takes, I think, 1 to 2 weeks to build a nest. The mynas in my balcony, since last 1.5 months, they have been procuring material in a nest they have been occupying. They have occupied earlier and they have successfully had fledglings. So I'm not sure what they are exactly doing, or they are just waiting for the right time to come, because I think by end of May, as the monsoon approaches, there would be good food supply as well. So they would lay their eggs then. But every day I see them bringing a feather or a twig, some kind of, it's sometimes plastic. Once I had to remove a big part of, I mean, big chunk of plastic from the nest. I read them because it was very bad. That's what it is. But in general, the 2 weeks is usually what it takes to, because they bring one twig at a time, or they would wrap the cobweb in their beak a little by little and then come and wrap around the nest. It's a time taking. Even if you watch the buyer weavers, they take some time to 2 weeks at least. So I have not put a fixed time frame.
Thank you, Adil. Question about owls. How do owls ensure their nests are not seen? And how do owls protect their nest from getting attacked during daytime?
Difficult question to me. See, owls, they rely on they are very still. So if you have seen an owl picture, mostly it would be by a place where a tree hollows. Basically, that's a nest where they generally stay in their hollows as well, and then they do nesting. They rely more on being very still, their bodies pretty and well camouflaged around. So, heard the owl or have seen some commotion. That's how someone knows where an owl is. On a, am I still audible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah.
You were audible. So another question: Tickle's flycatcher nest. Do you know how what kind of nest they build?
Tickle's blue flycatcher, again, I think since I mentioned to you, all the blue flycatchers, they would build a nest in a crevice in the tree hollow. I mean, in a crevice or a tree hollow. And it would be a cup-shaped nest, but it would be placed mostly on the inside of a tree trunk. Or they might even find a gap between big roots and they might place a nest there as well. But it's generally a cup-shaped nest. And preferred place is a tree left
Okay,
in the tree.
thank you. Another question.
Well,
Another question is, what would attract a bird? This was asked earlier, to build their nest near a human dwelling or ceiling. Or in fact, it should not be the other way around, that they should be going away from the sound and the disturbance.
I didn't get the question.
So, question is, why do birds come and build nest in our home, our house, flats, etc., in urban areas? Should it not be that they should go away from the sound and the disturbance or human people? What is the reason they
Some,
come to?
some birds have lived along with humans for centuries. So these are the birds that would build nests around us. So they are comfortable with sharing space with humans. It's a privilege to us.
Okay, great.
For
Thank you.
examples like mynas or house crows, they would prefer to build nests near humans.
All right. Thank you. How the nests are weather resistant, although made of saliva, etc., or basic material like grass. How are they weather resistant or water resistant?
See, they are relying. If you see a cobweb, even after it rains, the cobweb still is resilient. It stands its place. Uh, the water also doesn't destroy it, or neither does it get wet that way. It's like plastic in some silky. In some sense. It is elastic as well. It is, and if I am not wrong, it has that. It is stronger than as if you make steel wire as thin as a cobweb, then it is going to be more tensile. So that is one thing. Then again, uh, the kind of material like the twigs or the bark they use to make the nests are very elastic again. So yesterday itself I was seeing an experiment where they were using pressure hand, bringing my hands together and clap, but that kind of force was being used, and the measurement, but 6 to 15 Newton meters, I think, meters or whatever the measurement was able, the nest was able to handle that kind of impact. And once the pressure was removed, they were so elastic enough to come back into their shape. I'm talking about nests like a bulbul or a cup-shaped nest, very tiny.
Thank you. There many questions are coming, so I'll ask one by one. So please hold on. Does starling kill the chicks of the primary dweller?
Starling is the chick of the primary dweller.
Yeah, because you mentioned starlings are secondary dwellers. Does it mean that they kill the primary dweller chicks, or they use it after the primary dweller has gone?
See, either they would have the primary, if they're trying to occupy an existing nest, then I'm sure if there is an egg inside, then the primary dweller would defend it. Right. So that doesn't happen. But if they are using a nest that has been left or evacuated, then there's a question. So starlings are not seen any examples of or heard from anyone in that kind of, if they would destroy an egg. On the other hand, if there is a parasitic brood parasite like a quail or other cuckoo who would lay their eggs in other species, it may happen that if they are discovered while laying their egg, or if the owner of the nest is able to make out which egg is not its own, then it would throw that egg out.
Okay, this question is not related to nests, but it is in general. Any suggestion for beginners interested in bird identification? What they must do? How they must start, or courses or whatever?
I think now is the best time. You can start with your birding, and first observe the common species around you. Most primarily, you have to observe the kind of shape of their bill. So color is one thing that you're noticing anyway, but shape of the bill, their size, the shape of their claws. So this will give you an understanding of what kind of bird it is, what food it eats. And in terms of a book, you can start with, I think, Salim Ali, book on birds of Indian subcontinent. Or you can go with Griffith as it's a good field. Very similar name. Find it. Look at these two authors.
Yeah, I would like to add to Bipin that if you want to understand more about it, join the BNHS course. Go to their website and you will find the information related to their course on their website. I'll take next question. How human can learn to build from the smaller creature?
Sorry.
How can human learn to build from these creatures, these birds? What can we learn in terms of
I
building?
think I think we have learned from other living beings itself only. So the kingfisher has been used design the bullet train. For an example, where the bullet train, while exiting from a tunnel, was making a large booming sound. So the shape of the bill of kingfisher was studied because they also dive to the water, and there's hardly any sound or there's any impact to them. So it was used to design the shape of the bullet train. Likewise, the flight of the birds was used in designing our planes. I don't have the right words for that, but uh, in a plane, the wings, there is the flap that is basically designed from observing birds. In general, maybe the art of weaving or stitching has come after looking at birds. We are learning from them.
Thank you,
We
Adil.
have to be more observant.
Thank you for that. Question from Vinit. I assume it's our Vinit. What about nightjar's nest? How do they look? Or where do they build?
Again, nightjar, they would build a nest on the ground, a small scratch in the ground or a depression in the ground. They would rely on camouflage. You know, nightjar is a very cryptic word. So that's their best.
Okay,
Sort of.
thank you. Aarti is asking, she saw mynas taking away the curry plant leaves, curry patta. Are they used to cool bedding, used as a cool bedding or what? Or just
Very
another material?
specific. I think you will have to observe more and get back to me on that. It was very specific. Not sure. Or they might have just chosen because they might speak Hindi. There's a word kaula, fresh leaves. They must have taken it for that.
Okay. Sunitra is asking, where do you live? Yes, he lives in Pune. You are correct. Manjula, you have a long question. Do you want to unmute and ask that question in brief? In the meanwhile, I'll go to the next question. Andrila will ask her question herself. Okay. How do you classify pigeons' nesting habit? Question to you, Adil.
We classify pigeon nesting habit very minimalistic. All pigeons have a very minimalistic approach to nest building. Few twigs they would place and they will declare it's a nest and they will lay the egg. In fact, our rock pigeon, a feral species in India, observe how they build the nest. It is similar to what other pigeons. In fact, doves will have a better nest.
Okay, great. Another question. How does Tailor bird nest can sustain the weight of the chicks and its own weight because you said it does nest on the leaves.
The tailor bird would stitch 3 4 leaves together, and inside it will have a cup nest, and it's a very tiny nest. The tailor bird itself is very tiny, weighing hardly. The chicks are also very small. Obviously, they're able,
Okay.
and they use cobweb to stitch together these. They make a bit. You'll
Okay.
see.
Any of you, if your question is not answered fully, you can ask again. So I will put it up again. Adil, there is an invitation for you
Yeah,
by someone. Sunitra, I would suggest put it on the WhatsApp group so that it is retained because this chat will go away later on.
yeah,
So,
better.
Andrila, are you ready with your question?
Yes, it's very excellent informative session, I must say.
Thank you.
And I have a question regarding a sparrow nest. What are the ideal ambience that citizens can offer to the sparrow to build their nest in their home? Like I have put one sparrow nest, but it didn't like it. Same type of nest was preferred by sparrows in Major Sahib's place. I have seen in his place, and actually he gave me the information, the instruction to build it, how to build, and then I followed it, but it didn't work. It was in my balcony, and it was in a partly shaded area. I placed a bird feeder and water bowl also. Both the feeder and bowl was active. I mean, they come and feed themselves. They took us, but they didn't like the nest. What can be the cause?
What I've observed about sparrows is one is food supply could be nearby very good, but they will not put it very close to a constant food supply. Second is they require safety. So in my example, in my bathroom uh, uh, window, they are having a nice family over there. So on the inside, I have a plastic mesh which I had put for mosquitoes because the slides have kept it open. So that's how they come in. The miners have been peeking in most of the time. I don't know what they have with the sparrows. I'm not sure whether they want to eat the chicks as well. So the miners very regularly they try to peek in, but they are not able to bring their beak on the inside very much. So it's a very safe kind of. You have to ideally the sparrows are not very choosy. They would want to find a small hole where they can keep their young protected. So it has to be difficult for other predators to be able to approach that nest. Another example is stealings or in the earlier years, golden yeah, childhood times, used to have these chicks rolled up. So behind the chicks, there is a gap. So they make their nest in that. Also, the material required for what I've observed is sparrows require hay. So try collecting some hay and placing it somewhere. See, or their favorite nesting material, which I keep providing them, is sutli. Sutli aati hai na? So I keep cutting small bits of sutli and tying it here and there, and they keep taking it away from their nest. Or they will
Actually,
pluck sticks from
totally
the
is
broken
the jute rope. Jute rope.
jute rope. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Adil. I hope
Yeah.
that question is answered. Few more questions coming up. Why cuckoo bird does not build their own nest?
It is their way of life. They prefer to be lovers rather than caretakers. So uh, they rely on group bats. That's why. Not uh, found any specific reason why they not prefer, but maybe they are not good at parenting. They are good at other things, being taken care of, or their parents are not able to take care of their uh, feeding needs. They have big appetites. Probably these are the reasons. Or they have, it's a way of survival. They have found that okay, when it's easier to just lay an egg and try to they have also evolved to make eggs match the host parent eggs, right? So this is evolution. In fact, I've read about the common hawk cuckoo, if I'm not wrong. In the Deccan, the common hawk cuckoo prefers to lay eggs in, I think, Pyrenees nest or something. And there, the color of the egg is different. I can get back to you on this, the group. The color of the egg is different. While in the upper parts of India, they lay their egg in tailor bird's nest. And so the nest, the egg matches the tailor bird. So this is basically evolution survival.
Thank you. I think that answers that question. Where do peacock nest and what kind of nest is that? That is question is from Brahman Sidhu.
Peacocks again, they nest on the ground, and also a minimalistic nest. I've read about it a bit. They would line it with a little bit of twigs and sticks. They would place it nest in a denser area, not be in open ground. They would rely on little bit of what do you call keeping the nest. It's you have seen that stock, the crane nest. So the crane nest was in the paddy field, and it was thick padded. In the case of peacock, it's less kind of padded.
Okay, thank you, Adil. There are no more questions. Questions
Yeah,
are whether are you going to show a video? Yes, and
yeah.
before that,
I would like to show
yeah,
because
yeah.
I think
Before that,
people.
I would like to say that Sunetra has invited you to come to educational institutes, schools, etc., to come and give a chat to spread awareness. So you may get in touch. Sunetra, you can get in touch with Adil. You can
Yeah,
connect with.
please drop a message in WhatsApp, Smita. I would love to be able to share whatever I can.
Yeah, she's the one who was asking whether you are based in Pune. So you can go ahead with
Okay.
the video. Thank you, Adil.
So these are the parting things that I want to leave you with.
Weaver birds are the great experts. It's the males who do the building. The first step is to tie a leaf strip onto a twig. It's not easy, for the fibre is very springy. The trick is to keep a firm hold on it with one foot. Then you can tie the knot with your beak. It's a simple half hitch, but a firm one, and all subsequent work will literally depend on it.
The tailor bird, on the other hand, relies on stitching two leaves together. One stitch at a time.
So just comments here. Two different species, two different ways of making a nest. They have two different kind of set of beaks. The weaver bird has a very small beak, while the tailor bird has a longer beak, which also is used to poke holes in the beak and then able to bend across and pull the from one side to poke with the end. I took it from YouTube. One is from BBC, and the other one had a logo. And on the parting note, I would like to acknowledge a lot of knowledge I gained from by such Dr. I think everyone knows about him. This statement from is also that I suppose I've done my bit. Hello, am I audible? Right, yeah.
You're able to hear and
Hello.
see the slide. Yes. Word.
Okay, yeah. So this statement by him, I think we should all follow. He says that I suppose I've done my bit. It's now up to you, younger people. I'm trying to take that responsibility. I thank BNHS, Dr. Raju Kathambe. He's been a great teacher. Learned a lot of things from him. And the Cornell Lab, I took a lot of images. I took understanding also from their side. And Francis, dear friend, thank you for making this happen. Push me for it, and also helped me a lot. And a lot of other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. Wonderful session. Lots of messages on the chat and also on WhatsApp coming to thanking you. I don't think people will be able to thank you personally here now. So, on behalf of everyone, I thank you for conducting this wonderful session. Amazing insights today I have got, and hopefully,
Thank you.
I will also take this forward, as you said, right, as a young person to other people as well. Thank you. For the participants, thank you for joining today. You were a great audience. I will post the video. I will upload it on YouTube, and I will post it on the link on the WhatsApp group after this. When by evening I will do that, and you can distribute and give it to other people as well. Thank you very much. Adil, you want to say anything?
Thank you. Thank you, Fran.
All right.
Thanks all. Thank you, all of you. I mean, staying with me for, I think, about 3 hours. Gradually, the participation reduced, but I didn't expect it for so long. But I wanted to cover everything. I didn't want to leave anything.
Thanks, Adil.
Thank you, Anup. Okay, everyone, thank you. You may leave now. With this, we end the session. We'll close it now.